So let's say when I hit Shift Q, we're going to make it a little more difficult now. You'll notice that the edges of my box taper a little bit in, right? So I have to correct the perspective on my renderings. So a lot of people think, and also on the screen, right, on my computer screen it's not as bright, but as I'm looking at the projector that this is projecting on, it's really bright on that projector, right? So I would want to decrease the amount of light on the rendering. So what would you do if you decided to make it darker? What do you think the first thing you would do?
Increase the intensity.
The intensity of what?
The light itself.
That is absolutely incorrect. And that is absolutely what most people think. You change the camera. So the camera is what's letting in the light. So we've already set this up to be calibrated for light transfer for an exterior scene. So I would go to the camera now, and again, just like the box, when we edit the box, we go to the modifier properties. It has a length, a width, and a height. The camera itself also has a set of properties, right? So the camera has a film gate, right? So how much of that view am I letting in? What's the focal length, right? How far in am I letting in on that? My zoom, so I can zoom in once I have all that stuff set up. My F number is the size of the iris. So you think of a camera like your eyeball. The F number is like the size of your iris, right? It's either really small and letting in less light, or it's really big and letting in a lot of light. So we put it somewhere right in the middle. Then I have shifting. So the vertical shift and horizontal shift. I never use the horizontal shift, right? Because if I say guess horizontal, it always throws my whatever field of view face I'm looking at as straight on, and it's never accurate. So I always leave horizontal at 0, and then my vertical shift is what's going to straighten that object out, right? This is one thing in Revit you never get out of the cameras, right? So, you know, in Revit I would end up with an object looking like this, even though I know it's a box. I come into Max, I just click guess vertical, it'll straighten all sides of that box so it corrects perspective. Custom balance on white, right? I can turn on vignetting, so if there's a checkbox for vignetting, right? So vignetting is going to kind of throw a slight haze around the edges, so you see there's a little bit of a color variation. If I go bigger with my vignetting, right, it'll do it that way. If I go smaller with my vignetting, it does that. Production, usually we hand the vignetting in post-production, but Max will let you do some of it, depending on how much post-production you plan on doing. Also in the camera view, so now we're finally to the brightness values, right? As I have a shutter speed, right? If I want the scene to be darker, I make my shutter speed faster because it's letting in less light, right? So that immediately darkened up my rendering. If I want my scene to be brighter globally, I take my shutter speed and I make it let in more light by being slower. Right? Now we see kind of the perspective view. And this is why out of a perspective view and not a camera view, you see things that look like this. It's because the camera is controlling the amount of light that's coming into the iris. So I'll leave mine at 250. 250 is pretty good.